National Chief Archibald, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of your day today.
For sure, good to see you.
Now, you were at the papal visit in Maskwacis. What stands out for you from that day?
The level of emotion was fairly high. There were a lot of tears shed. There was a lot of re-traumatizing, I believe, that was happening. People were reliving very difficult memories, and that's what stuck out the most to me was the survivors and how they walked through that event with such grace and dignity.
Now, you had also put out a statement that you weren't allowed to speak at the event and also tweeted that there was, quote, no room for truth tellers on that day. Can you sort of tell us about that?
I did ask to welcome the Pope to Turtle Island as a whole. He did have a local welcome from the local chiefs, and I felt it was appropriate for me as national chief to be able to welcome the Pope as he was preparing to fulfill TRC call number 58, which he didn't quite do. But I was told by Archbishop Smith the day that we met the Pope at the airport that I just was not going to be able to speak, period.
Now, there's also been a lot of religious ceremonies and some criticism that the focus at times has not been on Indigenous peoples and survivors. What more would you have liked to have seen from Pope Francis on this tour?
It's definitely been called performative allyship and performative apology. It's, you know, it has this look of something that is, you know, authentic, but some people just didn't feel it was authentic. They felt that a lot of the events were really about the church itself, about the church's followers, rather than survivors. And I really felt that that was true from the beginning because we just weren't able to properly plan with the CCCB, the bishops on this whole process. They've really run the whole show, so to speak, unilaterally. We haven't had enough input. And I think that that's been reflected in this tour, that it's been more about the church and less about survivors, which is really sad. At the same time, they did get to hear the Pope say, "I am deeply sorry," and did get that acknowledgement, even just the other day in Quebec, that, you know, sexual abuse did occur in these institutions. So, you know, from Maskwacis to his final address in Quebec City, there were some shifts, but certainly not enough. He didn't address the doctrine of discovery. He didn't address the role of the church itself in the institutions of assimilation and genocide. And he didn't address some of the key issues like the recovery of our little ones, the thousands of children that we are going to be, you know, recovering in the coming years. He didn't address that at all.
And lastly here, National Chief, I guess, what are some of your overall takeaways from the whole week-long visit?
I would say that there's work to do, and that's one thing I did appreciate in his first address, that he did talk about that the apology was just the first step and that there are many steps ahead for us on the road to healing, on the healing path forward. And so I think that we've got to have a much better relationship with the Catholic bishops here in Canada, have a better relationship with the Vatican. I mean, they're the ones who give the final approval on all of his speeches. And we've really got to have those kinds of partnerships moving forward, as opposed to feeling like, you know, this is a unilateral process. So there's a lot of relationship building to do for those that want to build relationships. I mean, ultimately, there are people who will not want to forgive, who will not accept the apology, and who feel that the church is not done enough, is not doing enough. And so I think that the road ahead is complicated and it's varied, just as this whole trip was. Some people were very moved by it. You know, some Indigenous Catholics really appreciated this process, and others just were totally unsatisfied. So the road ahead is not an easy one for sure, but it is about the healing path forward. And as National Chief, I'm committed to that with all of our partners around the world.
National Chief Archibald, we'll have to leave it there. Certainly appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to speak with us.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl. Take care.